Lucy Riley. I'm the Student and Graduate Engagement Manager for Engineers Australia. I'm speaking on behalf tonight of one of my colleagues, Jason Thornhill, who is our Client Manager for Engineers Australia. Jason works really closely with industry and engineers becoming chartered within organisations. So some of you, if you are already working, and you may have seen Jason come along and do a presentation on becoming chartered and what's involved. He is on leave. He's gone to Tasmania, so unable to join tonight. So I won't go into the full detail of the hows and whys. I just want to give you a bit of an overview as to the importance of becoming chartered and the credential that it is. If you haven't seen Jason or you'd like to have Engineers Australia come along, have a chat with me. I can certainly, we can get that organised and be able to put you in touch where you can have a more detailed workshop and get to know a little bit more. But just to get started and to give a bit of an overview, one of the most prominent aspects of membership for Engineers Australia and to be an engineer is the ability to apply for chartered status. A chartered engineer is an engineer that is globally recognised as having gained the highest level of qualifications, training and practice. As a chartered engineer, your accreditation provides global recognition of your status, either through the international accords, our mutual recognition arrangements, which include recognition with over 20 engineering bodies, and regions that place great weight on the chartered standard. Engineers are called upon to solve problems. This may include sustainability, climate, ethics or defence, and our society needs confidence these will be delivered with correct knowledge and practical experience to achieve long-lasting, safe and environmentally friendly outcomes. Chartered is how you show you have achieved these qualities. It isn't easy to achieve, and nor should it be. It's a statement about fundamentals, a commitment to the code of ethics and currency of knowledge through continuing professional development. When chartered, it means you are internationally recognised as having these competencies, and at that benchmark with the ability to practice independently where necessary, lead teams and supervise through your technical expertise. Becoming chartered will future-proof you and your career. So becoming chartered, you're essentially protecting yourself as an engineer by publicly benchmarking yourself against the world-class standards, demonstrating that you adhere to a code of ethics, and showing that you maintain a level of currency in your knowledge. People who become chartered tell us that it's driven their career in countless ways. And this evening, as part of our sponsorship, I'd like to introduce to you Vernon Collins. Vern is the Chief Technology Officer for Duke Services. So as a chartered engineer, I have invited Vern along to share his experience as a chartered engineer working in defence. So I'd like to pass to you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks Lucy. So obviously Engineers Australia asked me to come along tonight to talk about the practicalities, I guess, of being a chartered professional engineer. I've been a chartered professional engineer now for quite some time. I'm actually an ex-Air Force engineer, so I've only been with Duke Services for a couple of years as the last 18 months or so as their CTO. But prior to that, I spent 37 years in Air Force, and I became an engineer later on in my career with Air Force. I graduated out of UniSA with a computer systems engineering degree in 2004, and then I went on to become chartered in around 2013. So I spent about 9 years or so before I became chartered. And I guess I was a little hesitant to begin with, as you may be, about what chartered really means. But I guess I came to the realisation that chartered really did add value to my engineering credentials. It made me feel like I was probably recognised for the effort that I put into the engineering work I've done with Air Force up to that point. Now, I should just say before I go on that Duke Services are a company that work in ISR EW, C4 ISR EW. So you would have seen that in Reg's slide. So we dabble mainly in electronic warfare capability. That's where we started. We're now sort of broadening our spread across into cyber and ISR EW capabilities as well. Okay, so I guess when I first became chartered in Air Force, it wasn't something that that was pushed hard by Air Force at that time. It was sort of taken up by sort of your immediate manager who was passionate about Engineers Australia and about being credentialed to actually encourage younger engineers to become chartered. So I eventually got influenced by that engineer to become chartered, and obviously I'm very grateful for him to influence me in that way. So currently in Air Force, it's quite a bit more, I guess, serious in terms of credentialing. So they actually have across defence an agreement with Engineers Australia called DESTRA. It's the Defence Engineering and Senior Technician Recognition Agreement, and that enables Air Force, Army and Navy engineers to become credentialed through Engineers Australia. So it's obviously something that the military is very keen on, to see their engineers credentialed, and that's because we need to align ourselves, they need to align themselves with more civilian type of regulatory frameworks, etc. So the DASR, the Defence Aviation Safety Regulations, were the driver for Air Force initially to establish a DESTRA agreement with EA so that their engineers would be properly credentialed from a civilian perspective. So in thinking about how I have benefited as a CPEng over the years, I cast my mind back to a time when I wasn't credentialed. And I guess I wanted to sort of reflect on that experience of mine when I was working as an engineer at GEOSA. That's a Joint Electronic Warfare Operations Support Unit. I was an engineer on a jamming system for the F-111. And I guess I was a junior engineer at that time. I didn't really appreciate all the 16 competencies that the Stage 2 competencies describe. So, you know, those competencies tell you about engineering process. They tell you about, you know, other aspects of competency that are important. So, you know, being chartered eng, you have to obviously maintain your skills, and you do that by doing continuing professional development. And I guess at that stage of my career, I wasn't necessarily doing that. I did some of it, I guess. But what occurred on this particular occasion was that I was doing a reprogramming activity for the jammer. So the jammer needs to identify signals out in the ether to identify that there's I guess a threat that needs to be responded to with a jamming technique. So I guess I was being pressured by an operator to make a fast change to add another system into the library so the jam would respond. But what I didn't do, which was what process would have told me to do, which is I didn't do an ambiguity analysis. So when we installed the new jamming technique, or the new library into the jammer, and the aircraft went flying, it actually ended up jamming a maritime search radar that was fitted to a ship, I guess. And there was a complaint raised because they didn't expect their system to be, jammed by an F-111 flying nearby. I mean, maritime search radar is a very important capability on a ship. It enables them to avoid, you know, obviously crashing other ships. So to be jammed by an F-111 was not what they wanted. So, you know, I didn't realise that process was important as much as I do now, because that's what CPEng just taught me about. Process is important, and also being aware of additional information you can gather by doing continuing professional development. So had I guess, you know, read things, I would have understood that maritime search radars actually correspond a lot with a lot of the airborne intercept radars and surface-to-air missile systems that we were actually programming to combat. So that's where I found, on reflection, that CPEng, I guess, really helped me to understand what I could have done better as a junior engineer if I'd been chartered. The last point I wanted to make was that at Duke Services, we've now established an engineering workforce credentialing agreement with Engineers Australia. And we, obviously, at the company, think it's very important for our young engineers to be credentialed. We're obviously going to be seeking work in areas where you may need to be credentialed to get that work. There's obviously, I guess, an environment now where the states are implementing legislation for engineers to be registered. And so having a credentialing agreement in place to get our engineers credentialed, as you know, encouraged, I guess, by Engineers Australia, then that'll get us on a path to do state-based registration work if the need arises. So there's obviously other reasons why we're pursuing it. You know, we're interested in making sure that our engineers are recognised and that they are assessed against a global standard. It's important for us, it's important for them. And so I just want to make that point. That's the reason that Duke Services is establishing that agreement with Engineers Australia. So hopefully I'll provide you enough information about why CPEng is important. And it's not just CPEng too, by the way. There are other levels. CEng-T and CEng-A, the associate and technologists, are also important aspects of the chartered regime for Engineers Australia. Thanks very much.